From a UPS cargo plane whose engine fell off during takeoff, and a commercial airliner that tried to battle a storm and lost, to this private plane that banked too hard while trying to put on a show, and much more. Here are some of the worst plane takeoff failures caught on camera. Bird strikes are every pilot's worst nightmare. On average, they can rack up to $1 billion per year in aircraft damages. On June 27, 2019, an Indian Air Force Jaguar loaded with fuel tanks and a set of practice bombs prepared for a routine training mission. But just as he lifted off and began to climb, our pilot intersected a flock of birds, turning his bomb training into an emergency landing scenario. With no time to waste, our pilot made a split-second decision to jettison the fuel tanks and carrier bombs, causing a huge explosion. Thankfully, no one was harmed, even though one bomb landed in a residential area, but no one was around when it did. Our pilot landed safely with just one good engine, thanks to the decreased weight. On Sunday, July 19th of 2026, a Kalitta Air Boeing 777 had just landed at Kentucky Airport after an 8.5-hour flight from Brussels when our pilots called for a go-around. But they pulled up a little too hard. Sparks shot out from under the fuselage as it scraped across the tarmac. The crew continued with the go-around, climbing away and circling back for a second attempt. About 20 minutes later, they touched down safely on a parallel runway. Thankfully, nobody on board was hurt. Kalitta Air immediately pulled the aircraft from service and announced plans to ferry it to their heavy maintenance facility in Michigan for a full inspection. On October 22nd of 2025, a Piper PA-31 took off from a private airfield in Venezuela with 2 souls on board. The pilot, 50-year-old Jose Bortone, had over 10,000 hours of flight time and 30 years of experience. According to a witness, the pilot said he was going to show off by performing an immediate low flyby over the spectators. Our pilot banked too early and unfortunately never had a chance to correct. The plane rolled nearly inverted and nosedived into a massive fireball. Sadly, both occupants were killed on impact. Every year, the fastest pilots in the world descend to Reno, Nevada for the National Championship air races. 8 planes line up on the runway, waiting for the flag to drop. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. On September 18th of 2016, the flag dropped. 7 planes launched, except one pilot who suffered an engine failure and couldn't gain any speed. The problem was, there was someone directly behind him.
Is he okay?
How about you? Just one, are you?
Yeah,
Are you okay?
I hurt my hand, but I'm okay.
With the nose of these planes tilted upward, he had no way of seeing the stalled aircraft sitting dead on the runway in front of him. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt. An NTSB investigation found that the trailing pilot had drifted off course during his takeoff roll. If he had kept the plane straight, there was enough room to pass safely. The race also had no written rules for what to do if a pilot needed to abort. On July 23rd of 2016, a Royal Air Maroc 737 was scheduled to leave Frankfurt, Germany en route to Casablanca, Morocco, with a 13,000-foot strip of runway ahead of it. Our pilot hit the gas and started the takeoff roll, but as they came closer to the end of the runway, he still couldn't get her off the ground, nearly scraping the tail on the runway. Thankfully, our pilot kept his cool, lowered the nose, and finally gained enough speed to lift off. They continued to Casablanca without further incident. According to a report, the failed takeoff was due to wake turbulence from an A330 that had just landed. On November 11th of 2023, an LX-7 Lancair was flying at 25,000 feet with 2 people on board when a door seal failed and the cabin pressure was lost. Our pilot was forced to descend immediately and make an emergency landing. But the problems kept stacking up. A propeller warning light kicked on, and then the throttle knob snapped off. With no throttle control, he was forced to land with idle power, but he touched down far too late.
Not good. Not good.
The plane skidded through a fence and crashed into a car. Thankfully, the pilot and his passenger walked away without a scratch. The driver of the car had to be taken to the hospital with minor injuries. The Boeing Dreamlifter is one of the strangest-looking planes in the sky. Only 4 of them exist. They're modified 747s with oversized, bulging fuselages designed to haul massive 787 parts between factories in Japan, Italy, and the United States. On October 11th of 2022, an Atlas Air Dreamlifter prepared for takeoff in southern Italy. The plane was loaded up with 787 components, headed for Boeing's assembly plant in South Carolina. But as our pilots lifted off, plane spotters noticed thick black smoke coming from the landing gear. Despite the missing wheel, the crew retracted the gear and continued on. Meanwhile, airport crews tracked down the tire in a nearby vineyard. Thankfully, nobody on the ground was hurt. On July 31st of 2018, an Aeromexico Embraer E190 was preparing to depart Durango International Airport in northern Mexico. On board were 99 passengers and 4 crew members, all headed to Mexico City. There was just one problem. A nasty storm was rolling in, bringing heavy rain, marble-sized hail, and dangerous winds. Despite the terrible conditions, the crew received takeoff clearance and hit the gas. But they wouldn't make it far off the ground. The plane had barely made it 30 feet into the air before a strong microburst slammed it back down to the ground. The left wing clipped the ground first, ripping both engines off. The jet skidded about 1,000 feet past the end of the runway and burst into flames. Passengers scrambled to evacuate down the emergency slides before the fire swallowed the fuselage. 49 people were hospitalized, most with minor injuries, but the pilot needed spinal surgery after the impact. Thankfully, everyone made it out alive. On July 29, 1999, 4 World War II Warbirds were preparing for a formation takeoff. 2 Bearcats would go first, followed by 2 Corsairs right behind them. But the lead Bearcat stopped on the runway before reaching takeoff speed.
They expected anything like what they're about to see.
The aircraft clipped the wing of the other aircraft and cartwheeled off the runway. Our 56-year-old pilot was lucky to be thrown from the wreckage, which likely saved his life. On November 4th of 2025, UPS Flight 2976 prepared for departure at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. The 34-year-old MD-11 freighter was loaded up and bound for Honolulu, Hawaii with 3 crew members on board. The takeoff roll looked completely normal until our pilots lifted off the runway. That's when all hell broke loose. Debris from the first engine killed the second one, leaving the crew with only 1 working engine. The pilots fought a losing battle.
Rotate. Hold it up, hold it up, hold it up. Go back, go back. Hold on. Right there, pause. Freeze it. Firewall it. It's all the way in.
It carved a half-mile path of destruction through a petroleum recycling facility and a UPS warehouse. The 3 crew members never stood a chance. Sadly, 12 other people on the ground were killed, and 23 others were injured. An NTSB investigation found fatigue cracking in the engine pylon mount. Boeing had received at least 9 prior reports of similar issues on the MD-11, but determined they didn't pose a safety risk.